Are we live? Audio should be better now. I'm stuck with an echo in my ear because I don't want to have audio issues like last video where it craps out after an hour and I just keep rambling for another 40 minutes. Kind of a waste. Oops. Got more light, so that should improve the quality of the HD camera a little bit. Also up the frame rate. This thing is fairly slow with light compensation. Damn cat. Kind of a butthead. I am out of fuel. That might be a problem. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and just re-go over these video cards real quick. Considering that nobody could hear a damn thing I was saying through the crapped out audio last night. Let's see. We'll go ahead and start with this cool looking one right here. This is a GeForce GTX 9800, or 9800 GTX. I always mix the number and the whatever up. There we go. Get it up there nice and close, and it should light compensate so you can actually see it. It's a very nice looking card. I'm actually going to be testing this for the first time live on video. I don't know if it'll be tonight. I don't know if I'll have time. I'm going to have to stop the stream for a few minutes, probably a half an hour, and go do some things about the house. I also found some more really cool old equipment, including an entire SATA hard drive RAID array with controller card. And it came out of a Power Mac 9600, so I might actually be able to pop it into one of my Macs, although the hard drive enclosure won't actually fit inside of one of the Macs because it requires a full 3 drive bays. Yeah, full 3 5¼ inch drive bays. It will fit, however, in my little server there, so I might actually transplant one of the motherboards out of the G4s into the server case and go ahead and set it up with a 5-way RAID 0 little 50 gigabyte RAID array running at 5 times 10,000 RPM. So that'll be a totally worthless, useless endeavor, but it'll be a hell of a lot of fun. But let's go ahead and grab the other big beefy video cards out of the drawer. This one right here is a really cool find for me. This is essentially just a GeForce 8800. It's, I think, a generation or two newer, so it doesn't suffer from the issues with basically rotting away like the 8800 and its successor, the 9800, did. Although that 9800 was made towards the end of the manufacturing process, so I think it might actually be okay. We'll see. This one hasn't been tested either, so this will be another one that'll be fun to test on stream. I've got a lot of untested hardware to look through. Some of it fairly modern, some of it really old. Some of it I don't even have any way to test. This one, I'm not actually sure it's any good. It's just in really nasty shape. There's a lot of what looks like corrosion on the board. I can't tell if it's actually corrosion or if it's just a little bit of rust or if it's just dirt. I mean, like, look at the stuff around that memory chip. See, normally when I see that stuff, I think the memory chips are bad, but I haven't been able to test this, so it could just be dust. Could just be some grimy nastiness. And I think this is a fairly modern card. Newer than those two, anyways. It's, oh, actually, no, I take that back. This is actually from the same generation. It's a 9600 GT. How interesting. Yeah, EN 9600 GT. It actually has the model number on it. I don't know if I can get this to focus in there well enough. But, yeah, interesting. I hadn't actually looked at this one since I picked it up for $1 at a garage sale. I get a lot of this stuff like that for just dirt cheap. Hey, Batman. Here's the Batcat again, getting in the way. Sitting on my TV transistor repair guide. This thing is really cool. I keep reading it over because there's just so many really cool electrical diagrams, and I've learned some really neat info about the difference between like a transistor TV and like the older 50s style tube TVs. Like, it's still actually pretty useless for trying to repair any kind of modern CRT, but I was able to use this to diagnose and successfully fix an old iMac CRT. So, I mean, it's still somewhat useful. I have an interesting find. Alright. So we got through the cool cards. Let's go ahead and get to the interesting cards. This is a Rage XL. I actually don't know too much about it, to be perfectly honest. I haven't had a chance to research this since last night when I first mentioned it. But if you look real close there, you can actually see along the edges of the PCB here, these little snap tabs. This was such a budget card, they were actually printed two together. If you look, this would actually fit over this, and one would extend over the other. And then after all the chips and everything were put on, they just do them two at a time, reduced production costs, and also reduced the amount of PCB that was used. So it was not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it tells you that this is probably not a high-end card. And I know it's not. It's a Rage XL. It's a little bit weaker than a Rage Pro, which is a lot weaker than a Rage 128, which is about a GeForce 4. So, and for GeForce 4 MX, I should say, which are pretty terrible cards. So, but you know, at the time they weren't terrible. It's just like from a modern retrospective. Although actually, the Rage XL, from what I understand, was, I don't know enough about it to make a determination. Never mind. This, however, was my first ever video card. A TNT2 32 megabytes. It's an M64. Unfortunately, it's not the faster version, which I didn't know when I bought it, but you know, I got it for like $100 used from a friend. God, I've had this thing frickin' forever. It's probably one of the only pieces of electronics I've actually managed to hold on as almost an original owner. I don't think I've been the original owner of a single piece of computer equipment in my entire life. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't count tablets as computer equipment. I bought myself one tablet, so that would be the only new piece of electronics aside from my phone I've ever bought, actually. That's actually kind of odd to think about now I'm thinking about it. Even my new computer is all used parts. Huh. Anywho, speaking of GeForces, here's a GeForce 2 MX. It's an okay card. This was my second ever video card, and it was a pretty significant upgrade over the TNT2. Better support for OpenGL, newer version of DirectX. It was quite a bit faster, more memory. I really liked this card. I think this is a 64 megabyte version. I'm sure thinking it is, judging by the number of chips on it. Yeah, these look like 8 meg chips, so this would, 8, 16, 30, yep, 64. This would be a 64 meg GeForce 2. It's a revision A2, so, yeah, this isn't my original one. I had the 32 megabyte version, which, despite having the same amount of RAM as the TNT2, was still significantly faster, and actually would play Doom 3 just a little bit. Not great, but... speaking of older cards, here's a Radeon 7064 AGP, which actually is actually fairly useless to me because it's AGP. I need one of these in PCI, or maybe a Radeon 9000 or a 9200 LE. I would like to put something a little bit better in both my Apple Xserve and my G3s, which are both, unfortunately, revision 1, come to find out. I double-checked both of them last night, and they are both revision 1. It's unfortunate, but that's how the cookie crumbles. You know, don't honestly know much about the 7000 other than the fact that it doesn't meet my requirements. The 9000 doesn't either. I need something with core image, but I don't think there is anything with core image on the PCI bus, which is unfortunate because I've got this Xserve, which is a G5, and I can pop 2 G5s in it, which would, and it takes it'll take 16 gigabytes of DDR1 RAM. You know, because the server can take more RAM than a regular desktop. It takes more RAM than my dual G5 Power Mac, actually. And I have the RAM to fill it up too, as a matter of fact. But without core image, I can't use it for my primary usage case for Macs, which is Final Cut Pro Studio 2. It'll work if I hack the files and bypass it, but it's so slow it's almost not worth it. This is a original TNT. I think that these are 4 meg chips, so this might be a 32 meg card. And it might be a 16 meg card because these might be 2 meg chips. I honestly don't know. Doesn't say on it, like most creative stuff at the time. You've got just a model number, which oftentimes was used multiple times, so it wouldn't actually tell you what you needed to know. Like the model number on one of the Audigy models was actually used on one of the PCI 128 models, so it's like, what the heck are you doing, Creative? Anyways, this is actually a Creative TNT card. Kind of an oddity. Anyways, made in Singapore. I didn't know. I never noticed that before. 1998. Boy. So that wasn't actually my first card. That was just one that I found. This one's kind of an interesting one. You look at it's got kind of a big heatsink for a card of this era. I mean, it's obviously a AGP2. Can't really tell how big these chips are. They're the fat style chips, so they could be anywhere from a megabyte up to about 8 megabyte. Oh, there we are. Look at that. 64 RAM. I'm gonna go ahead and say that's probably the amount of RAM on this thing. It's a Rage Theater. That's all it says on it is Rage Theater, which is interesting because it doesn't have any TV in. It's just a TV out, just a video card. But it says 3425 64 RAM. I'm gonna guess that's probably the RAM, which would make this one of the very last Rage cards, right before the Radeons came out with the Radeon 7000, which would have been the direct successor to this. Huh. Interesting. It's got DVI, it's got VGA, and it's got TV out, which is probably why it's called the Rage Theater. Batman, don't sit on the video cards. Those are not to sit. What are you doing? No, don't chew on the cables. No. No. It's not what you're supposed to do. Here, I'll hold you, okay? Here. This is a NVIDIA 6200, a GeForce 6200, 256 AGP, and for whatever reason, it just does not work anymore. I've not been able to diagnose what the problem is because it doesn't seem to have any busted caps or burnt traces or anything like that. There's no heat damage that I can see. It just doesn't work. One of these days I'll probably go through and look at all the resistors, see if anything's blown on it. I'll probably fix it. I'd like to fix it because I'd like to replace the 6600 in my retro gaming PC with this. Although the 6600 is more powerful, it's less compatible with some of the older games. Although it does better glide emulation. Stop chewing on the cables, kitty. Stop chewing on... Don't chew on the mic. What are you doing? Such a weirdo. Stop. This is a Rage 128 Ultra. So I think this was one of the last Rage 128s made. Kind of a big heatsink for a Rage card, right? I honestly don't know much about this one. Stop it, Batman. Seriously, stop chewing on the cable. I'll put you down if you don't stop it. Ow. Stop. You're going down. Sit in the chair. That stupid thing won't focus. You got the worst autofocus ever, camera. And this is just another Rage 128, the Rage 128 Pro. I pulled this one out of one of the G4s. I think this came out of my Mystic, which currently has a PC, a flashed PC Rage 9000 in it, which is not Radeon 9000, which is about the best card it'll take. It'll take 9600 if I can get my hands on one of the AGP2X rare versions, but they're not easy to find. This is a Matrox G45 32 megabyte. Amazing 2D card. Just really good. It's okay. It does okay 3D. It's not really a gaming card. This kind of disappointed a lot of people when it turned out it wasn't a gaming card, because people were hoping to a competitor to NVIDIA and ATI, but it never really came to fruition. I need to check what this was. Nothing important. Good. This is another Matrox card from the same series, G45. It's the 16 megabyte version, and it's actually an IBM OEM card, so it probably came out of a server or an IBM computer. A actual PC. It's kind of cool. I think these are both from 2000. Yeah, 2000. And this is a revision A. And this is also a revision A. Although this one apparently came out later because its model number is stepped up by one. It's the 9710301, and this is the 975. Never mind. This one's stepped up from this one, so this one is a newer card. Okay. My brain no work most times. What are you doing, cat? God. He's upset that I'm not paying absolute attention to him. This is another 6200. It's a 512 meg card, which is like, wow, but it's burnt out. I'm not exactly sure what happened to it, but once again, it just no woik. Got a VGA header on here too, which is nice if I want to convert it to a full card. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with it. Hopefully it's something I can fix someday. Oh, sorry. And this is the bane of my existence, a GeForce 4 MX 440. This is the worst GeForce card there is, really. It just is. It's terrible. Got less performance than a GeForce 2 MX. And this is the neutered 64-bit memory bus version with half the RAM it's supposed to have. So it's like, it was sold to me as a NVIDIA 5200 FX. Nope, that was not what it was. By the time that I was able to figure that out, because I didn't have a computer I could test it in, it was too late for me to contest and get my money back from the seller, so I'm just kind of screwed. You only have like 90 days, and it was longer than that. I'll go ahead and put these suckers away, and we are at about almost 20 minutes. So I'll probably go ahead and stop it here. Is there anything else I can think of today? I'm going to be out here tinkering, so if I come up with anything else interesting, I'll go ahead and pop on. Really disappointed. I got into all of that gaming and stuff last night, and it crapped out halfway through me playing Tribes 2. Oh well. At least the quality's a little better than last time, huh? It didn't drop out either. And no echo, echo, echo,